Hello everyone, this is part 36 of What If Naruto Was a One-of-a-Kind Genius, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist. To see more, comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. From the rooftop of the compound, Naruto was overlooking the birth of a new day. Nature was truly a beauty. It was life-giving. If the ground refused to give food, humans would not be able to sustain themselves. Yet, this beautiful world that gives life is treated with contempt. So much bloodshed, so much destruction. The world was constantly seeing things it should not. Wars were never good, for both humans and nature. But humans never learned anything, did they? They repeated things, mistakes, over and over again. Should people be allowed to be rotten, unrepentant, and unjust? Of course, Naruto had no care for justice. He didn't care. He didn't concern himself with it. But admittedly, he did love nature. He was after all at peace with it, and he didn't like human behavior at times. Especially, when it happened right in front of him. Are you sneaking in behind me? Naruto asked Sai without looking back, but he could feel the presence of the former NE shinobi. Sai sighed. He had thought he would at least be able to get in behind Naruto. The blonde watched his back as if he had eyes at the back of his head. Despite many attempts, he has failed. You could at least pretend to be surprised just once. I'd rather not flatter you with false praise. Sai shook his head and settled down beside Naruto. Your mother is very different. Yes, she is. I'm sure she wants you to be friends with me. She must have been disappointed learning that you are not like normal teenagers. You're actually worse than me. You don't have a problem with connecting to people. You just don't do it unless it is convenient. Sai said. But Ino is helping me. She says it will be helpful if I want to blend in with society. She is correct, Naruto said. But you have always been playing in the shadows. And I don't think one can play for both sides. You can wear a mask during day or rip it off during night. But you can be both. It's impossible to sustain both masks for long periods of time. You run the risks of losing it and expose yourself. You take on too much. I'm smart enough to understand that a single person cannot do everything by himself. Naruto said. During my younger days, I traveled a lot with the Sandaime and made friends. One of those friendships was with the feudal lord. I hadn't cashed in this part because it was never convenient. Trouble is coming and I need to have a grip on things. If I cannot influence cages, Daimias will do. Your next mission is to gather intel on all Daimias. We will decide what to do with the intel. Should I take Ino? Naruto shook his head. This is dangerous and you will be effective on your own. I have my own journey. I will take her with me. Sai nodded before standing up. I will depart immediately. Karen's work with Orochimaru was conducting experiments and research, yes. That is correct. Naruto appeared thoughtful for a few moments before speaking. If you come across Orochimaru's hideouts, please take any dough and you may find. He took out a scroll and threw it at Sai. It might prove useful in getting Karen distracted enough to stay here. Hokage office. Tsunade didn't like being awoken early in the morning when she was still enjoying her sleep. It was especially a problem when it was being done by her former teammate. She knew it was serious. If he was being playful, the Sannin would have rather watched her sleep. It was creepy in all sense of the word, but she would still prefer it than having being awoken so early in the morning. The slug princess massaged her temple with her eyes closed. She could feel that this was going to be one hell of a day for her. Sighing, Tsunade opened her eyes, leaned back to her chair and stared at the serious-looking L. He didn't say anything. Was he just going to watch her when he was the one who disturbed her from her sleep and made her come to this damn office so early in the morning? I know it's serious, so talk. Tsunade's voice was harsh. Jiraiya didn't break even when the woman was staring at him with a glare that could kill. He just woke her from her sleep. He didn't disturb her from doing something naughty. Still, the village was already awake. Tsunade wasn't just early in waking up unless the situation called for it. The Akatsuki attacked Kumogakure and took the two tails Jinchuriki. The Toad Sage said in a serious tone. He didn't need to say anything more. Tsunade would get it. She was smart enough. Jiraiya had time to think about this and he wouldn't allow Tsunade to blame everything on Naruto. He did think she would. Naruto was, after all, a sneaky person. But this wasn't his fault. The association with the Akatsuki had him to blame more than it had to do with Naruto. Konan and Nagato were his students. He had been willing to be with him on the rehabilitation. He was also the one making rounds with the village. Tsunade stared at the Sannin for a long minute before frowning. Great, she said with mild sarcasm. This wasn't what she needed at this stage. Jiraiya had told her about this and she was starting to feel that perhaps it hadn't been a good idea. He should have just left them alone to find their own path after they changed. He shouldn't have continued to associate himself with criminals. And now it would come back to bite them. Yesterday was something else. Today was this. What was tomorrow going to bring her? In her life of gambling, the only problem she had to solve was finding her next source of income to satisfy her addiction. She didn't have to deal with this mess. Who did it? Tsunade more or less demanded, her glare never leaving the Toad Sage. A man who calls himself Uchiha Madara. He is an Uchiha and Naruto says he is the same person who caused the Kyuubi rampage 17 years ago. Jiraiya responded in a firm tone. But Naruto says he isn't Madara. He won't tell me anything else other than that. The man wears a mask, so we can't be sure about anything. He was nevertheless the one who came with the idea of gathering the Bijuas and manipulated Nagato into doing it. Jiraiya didn't think of the Uchiha fondly. Regardless of who he was, to manipulate Nagato into becoming a cold-hearted K who calls himself God was something he could not forgive. Nagato had been a kind-hearted child with a strong future ahead of him, but now he was just this person who couldn't even stand on his own feet or even walk. They had told him everything. Their pain, their misery. Everything. Jiraiya wasn't pleased by it. This was why he wanted nothing more than to ensure that Nagato gets his peace. It was also his dream after all. He was the one who filled Nagato's head with this nonsense about peace. He would take responsibility for it. It was his mess to deal with and his problem to solve. Tsunade adopted a thoughtful look on her face, thinking about this Madara. Where is Naruto? You two are the ones with connections to the Akatsuki. The Godime asked. She was keeping calm, but the name of Uchiha Madara was just fearsome. Not a name to play with. The man was infamously legendary and there had been one person who could stand before him in battle. And that was her grandfather. Even though Jiraiya was saying it wasn't him, just the mention of this name would bring fear to anyone. Jiraiya was honestly surprised that Tsunade wasn't making noise and destroying stuff already. Perhaps it was because she had yet to grasp the gravity of the situation. Maybe she hasn't figured lashing out wasn't going to solve anything. I sent a clone after him, Jiraiya said. He lost a bit of his seriousness. He will join us. He paused and stared at Tsunade to see if she understood the situation. This Uchiha said he was going to start a war. Before he attacked Kumo, he said he was going to start a war. I spoke to Naruto last night and we both came to the conclusion that if he is indeed trying to start a war, everything will ultimately come back to Konoha. We don't have a good relationship with both Kumogakure and Iwa. The Sannin stressed the last part. Tsunade fell silent. Her face was just expressionless. It seemed as if she was going to explode soon, but she did not. She just leaned over to her desk and took out a bottle of sake and a saucer. She took a gulp and another before shattering the saucer. Perhaps if they had a good relationship with other villages things would be better. Wasn't this what Naruto was trying to do? Perhaps he saw that the problem with the shinobi nations was that everyone was always minding their own business, no one trusted the other. The lack of cooperation also made it easy for war to start. If they cooperated with Iwa and enjoyed a good relationship with the village, there was no other village that would dare attack them because they knew Iwa would be there for them. Either way, this was a situation that had to be handled carefully. Or they would have another war, a fourth one. Tsunade had already been 2 wars, she didn't want to see another one. She healed many people. She didn't want to see that again. War was ugly. It was only beautiful to be thirsty L who had no regard to people's lives. You can't really have peace in the elemental nations, can you? The Godime Hokage asked in a flat tone. Jiraiya didn't agree or disagree to it. It was possible, they just had to find a way. The past years have been relatively stable. It is correct to say that the hidden leaf has been enjoying peace. It was just that it never seems to last forever. Someone always had other ideas to ruin the peace that was established. We can find a way for peace. There is no war as things stand. It is Kumo's reaction and our response that will determine things, Jiraiya said in a firm tone. He was confident that they could avoid war. The Raikage would not simply charge over to the hidden leaf with his shinobi. There would be time for discussions and they could discuss things. Perhaps Naruto's fear in all these was being singled out for everything. It was understandable but still something they could solve. They just had to move quickly. You really still believe that? Tsunade said, with more surprise in her tone than intended. The Sannin had always preached peace within the elemental nations. It was like with his story about the Child of Hope and the prophecy. Tsunade had never really believed in it, but her friend's hope was unwavering. Unless for what I believe in, Haim, Jiraiya said in a hardened tone. Tsunade was silent for a couple of moments before nodding slowly. She didn't look at Jiraiya as she asked, she stared to the ceiling. Tell me, what do you think is going to happen now that the Akatsuki has attacked Kumogakur? My conclusions with Naruto aside, I think Madara will also move to get other Jinchurikis. That means even Gaara, Iwa's Jinchuriki and the others will be targeted. However, from what Nagato told me, he can't do anything without the Rinnegan. However, if his Sharingan was powerful enough to control the Kyuubi, there is reason to believe that he can control any Jinchuriki he gets and use them as he did here. That was something he didn't consider with Naruto, but it was a thought that came to him when he was thinking through the night. His discussions with the blonde had been centered on Naruto. But that was perhaps because of Naruto's fears. But the end result would certainly still put Konoha at the center of things. Nagato and Konan had said they had a plan to deal with Madara. Naruto also appeared to have a plan as well. The Sannin would rather the two parties work together than Naruto rushing to face the masked Uchiha on his own. Before we get a reaction from A, can we at least take measures to warn the other villages about this threat? Tsunade said. She knew her well enough. The man was rash and often did some reckless things. But she was still sure he wouldn't dismiss her if she chose to speak to him face to face to discuss his concerns. I will get to that, Jiraiya said. He paused when Naruto appeared in the office via gusts of winds. The blonde settled down in front of Tsunade's desk without saying a word. The Sannin still grinned at Naruto. It was a lecherous grin. Did you entertain you guessed? He asked. Even though the situation was serious, he could not help himself. Naruto looked at the Sannin with a raised brow. No, he said with a shake of his head. I was in a bad mood for entertainment. He said and glanced at the Godime Hokage. Considering how she was in their last conversation, Naruto was surprised to see that she had yet to lunge towards him. The woman hadn't hidden her suspicions of him. It wasn't a big deal. He could live it. It would only probably a problem if it affected his movements. Seeing him stare at her like that, eyes mysterious to her, Tsunade felt the urge to look the other way, but she did not. She stared back and asked. Guessed. Could this be the Mizukage? Jiraiya responded before Naruto could. Yes, considering that Naruto had been willing to lie to Yugao regarding it, it was perhaps safe to say that the woman was important. Not the blonde personally, but to his plans. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. I asked her yesterday and she denied anything happening between you two. Are you also going to deny it? Anything. If you mean in the context of a romantic relationship, there is nothing going on. Naruto paused and tilted his head to the side. I won't deny that there is an attraction there. Lucky brat, Jiraiya mumbled bitterly. He was quick to get into serious matters though. You look fine than you were last night. The blonde had looked as if he was ready to M someone last night. But here he was, having a casual conversation with them as if everything was alright. I had time to think. Besides, I have always shown myself to be better at controlling my emotions. Naruto responded a bit carelessly. You surprise me though. I thought by now, this desk would be shattered. Tsunade blinked once before responding. The thought did cross my mind. I'm probably going to need to go to a training ground to release the emotions I'm holding back now, the slug princess responded calmly. I just recognize that the situation is delicate and lashing out as I did yesterday will not solve anything. Naruto nodded. Jiraiya has taken you through everything then, the blonde stated. Yes. Tsunade paused, staring at Naruto, trying to read him. But there was nothing. His mask was just unreadable. What had she been thinking though? The blonde was always been good at hiding his thoughts. How are we going to handle this? I suggest Jiraiya head to Kumogakure and talk to the Raikage. Or at least wait until we get something from before moving. He can be reckless but he won't be the type to head into war without talking to us first. Naruto said in a flat tone. In the meantime, I will speak to Nagato about dealing with that fake Madara. If we get rid of him, we stop more Jinchurikis from being taken and we return what has already been stolen. Sounds fair, but I rather we be proactive. We don't have to wait for Kumo, we can make the contact before them, Tsunade said. Are you sure you can handle things? Naruto nodded. I have been preparing since I came to realize that he was the man who destroyed my chances of a happy childhood and caused my mother to suffer. I have never actually thought of revenge or vengeance for other people because those thoughts have been directed to one person. Both Jiraiya and Tsunade shifted uncomfortably at the dark tone that Naruto used when he spoke about vengeance. But neither commented on it. Naruto, Tsunade paused, just to make sure Naruto was listening carefully. I overreacted yesterday. I had time to think about things and I realized that since you and I came to an understanding, you have always been true to your word. Naruto shook his head. I should have told you I was planning on trying to form something with Iwagakure. It's not just Iwa but with Kumo as well. It will be difficult but we can look at this as an opportunity. Jiraiya smiled. You are being positive, the Sannin said. When are you going to talk to Nagato? Today, I will send a clone. Naruto said. I can't waste time. We don't know what that fake Madara is doing as things stand. He could be hunting other Jinchurikis or spreading false rumors around the elemental nations. The blonde stood up. My visit to Iwagakure will still continue. I'd thought to cancel it. But I was being careless. I will see Mater Iwa. But I won't engage in anything. Tsunade wasn't surprised by this and she didn't question it. Are you going to warn Gaara? Naruto nodded. Yes. The blonde stood up. He stared at Tsunade for a moment before speaking again. I have restricted myself from lying to you. You are the leader of this village and have a duty to protect it. I understand that. I also have a duty to protect my family. I am still a shinobi of Hidden Leaf, but let me say what you already know. I have never been loyal to Konoha but I will not willingly plot against it. My mother loves this place. She loves the village she is to save. The village my father is himself to save. To be quite honest, I'd looked for reasons to leave this village. And I found them. But my mother will not. I will fight to make sure this village is safe. But if it does come to a point where you have to choose between me and the village's safety, you will know what to do. But have no fears of retaliation from me. I will understand. Perhaps some part of me will be happy. But I will not be at peace. If I am forced out, there will be no freedom. The enemy will hunt me down. They will go after my family. Do you understand what I have not said? Those words spoken in a cold tone did not please Tsunade. But it was the truth. It was reality. She knew all along. The council had known. People had tried to take measures to against Naruto because of it. He had said it with a straight face. It did not shock her. She didn't expect him to say it, but it did not surprise her. What was the unspoken word? Regardless of his grand plans and no love for Konoha, Naruto couldn't leave this village. But above all things, his mother came first. A situation where he became a target from major villages even when he does have friends wouldn't be good for him or his mother. Even if he went to Suna, or wouldn't care. He'd send assassins after the blonde. The life of constant danger. It would even ignite war. But what would Naruto do in that situation? The darkness in him. The scheming. The brilliant manipulative mind and power. Tsunade swallowed hard. She needn't think too hard. Naruto was almost predictable in that regard. Let us say it is safe for everyone if danger is averted. The Godime said. I know you will do your best to ensure that the danger is indeed averted. Naruto nodded. I will depart this village. I won't be gone for long. He was gone after those words. That was something else. Tsunade said. Tell me about it. Jiraiya said after a long pause. I thought Naruto would grow out of his comfort zone. His love for his mother, I mean. But it does seem that she will always be first. That was never in question. Tsunade said. You should be headed to Kumogakure, Jiraiya. The Godime Hokage paused. If something were to happen to Kushina, What do you think will happen to Naruto? That self-control will disappear. Perhaps the balance will be the child Mikoto is carrying. Then we must bring her closer. Around 9 a.m., Kushina looked Karen with a smile. It was a good morning. Yugao appeared very happy for some reason. She assumed it had something to do with her relationship with Naruto, but she would not pry. She just had a bit of concern with Karen. They had yet to discuss things. There was no hurry. It wasn't like she had anywhere to go anyway. This was family though. Having breakfast. Some time ago, it was just her and Naruto. Them against the world. Now there were other parts of their family. Naruto's relationship with Mikoto would bring another family member. It was less desirable, but nothing she could stop. Nothing she could do. Besides, now that she did think about things, a child would be what Naruto needs. Evidently, Yugao's presence has failed to lift the shadow that hovers about him. It was a disappointment. She'd thought Yugao would. But apparently, Naruto had yet to open up. Perhaps holding the little one in his hands would open up his heart. Perhaps the hatred, the pain, the negative emotions that frightened even her would be dealt with. That was the hope. Speaking of which, Naruto wasn't here. Kushina wasn't complaining much about it. It just gave her time to talk to the girls alone. She also needed to give the house a bit of a makeover. Where did Naruto go, Yugao? He said something about going to see the Godime Hokage. But it has been a while now, she finished in thought. Naruto never spoke much with the Godime. It was something important. She knew that. But she thought he would have returned by now. A mother's boy missing breakfast with his favorite woman. A shock. The favorite woman was even her, his lover, but his mother. A nagging thought. But Yugao would not compete. Mikoto had already beaten her even. But at least Naruto was hers. She could claim him. I see, Kushina said in thought. She was curious, but didn't ask anything further. Sai left. Yes, a pity. I wanted to inquire a bit more about his relationship with Naruto. Yugao looked up at the woman with a raised eyebrow. I thought you wanted to be like a mother to him. She said. He is close to Naruto. I'm not ignorant of Naruto's side activities. I know my son too well. But I just want him to have a friend. He doesn't have those, does he? Well, he has Sasuke and Ino. Sasuke-kun can't be counted in a list of friends. Ino is Ino. Kushina couldn't think of anything else to say about the blonde. Naruto views the world differently. Perhaps the only person he has recognized as a friend is Ino. He would have gained a better relationship with Gaara and his siblings, but the sand invasion ruined things. Sai is certainly trusted, but sometimes I can't tell what Naruto is thinking, Yugao said. She turned to the silent Karen. What is your opinion of him so far? I know you haven't had time with him, but what can you say? That factors a lot if you are going to stay here. Karen hadn't really thought about things. But she couldn't just sit here. She wanted to continue doing research. Naturally, it won't be as inhumane as that with Orochimaru. But doing the work was the only thing she wanted to do. If she could continue with it, she wouldn't have a problem staying here. What did she think about Naruto? Karen didn't have much. Nothing much. There was indifference in her voice. She faced Kushina. You are kind, warm and nice. I can't believe that someone like him actually lives here peacefully. Yugao was the one who responded. Her tone hard. Someone like him. Karen wasn't frightened by the stare from Yugao. The old hag. He isn't like both of you. He isn't kind. He is cold and frightening. Yugao wanted to say something but Kushina see her off. It's fine, Yugao. It isn't like this is false. Naruto is only kind to us. To the rest of the world, he doesn't. She wasn't happy about it. It saddened her, and her way of putting it was an understatement. The cold-hearted truth was that the world could burn for all Naruto cared and he wouldn't be moved to do a single thing unless his family is threatened. There was no kindness, even if Naruto did good. It certainly wasn't because he cared but merely out of principle. It was the bitter truth. A hard truth Kushina had long ignored to focus on her hopes. Her dreams. Things like that. What have you decided about what you wish to do? Kushina asked Karen. I want you to stay here. We long searched for remaining members of the Uzumaki clan but we cannot and will not force you to stay here if you do not want to. Of course, that wasn't to say that Naruto would allow Karen to leave. Kushina didn't even want to think about what he might do. There were no limits. Her son wasn't bound by moral standards after all. Given how I ended up coming here, I doubt he will me leave, Karen said. Sai had dragged her here. After all that effort, they would not simply allow her to wander about. But I don't really have anywhere to go aside from Orochimaru's hideouts. But from what Sai said, they are being destroyed. That doesn't help. If I can get equipment to work, I can stay here. I noticed that the compound is closely guarded. So I can work without being a bother to anyone. Don't you mean, without anyone bothering you? Yugao asked with a smile. Karen smiled back. Don't worry, you don't have to feel threatened because someone young is around the house. What is that supposed to mean? Yugao asked sharply. I don't think you are too old to miss the point. Kushina smiled. It was amusing. She laughed. Now, you two. Be civil. She almost told Karen that she was wrong about one thing. Naruto didn't like girls his age. If Yugao knew that, she wouldn't be threatened. What kind of equipment are you talking about, Karen? Science things. Experiments. She wants a lab, Naruto said as he appeared into the room. Karen didn't even try to look at him. The blonde sat beside his mother and then greeted her before facing Karen. It can be arranged. As long as we are not talking about Orochimaru. I'm not like him. Good. It would be a disappointment if you were like him. Naruto said. We will build something in the underground for you. If you can have that space, you really don't care where you stay, do you, Karen? She did not respond. You were late for breakfast, Naruto. Where were you? Apologies, mother. Sensitive issues had to be dealt with. I also had to prepare the Mizukage for a departure. I have to be out of the village by noon. Karen noticed. The cold expression had changed in a second. Even his body language changed when he spoke to his mother. He was like a totally different person. No, he was a different person. It was like he just suppressed all negative things when he faced his mother. You'll get used to it, Yugao said to Karen, seeing her expression. He even smiles happily when talking to his mother. Karen glanced at Naruto once more before staring her plate. It was strange. His smile wasn't like Orochimaru's. The Sannin was creepy. Naruto was dangerous, but his smile was honest. How could someone be so frighteningly cold and indifferent to the world around him and yet still care so much for just one person? She shook her head. She didn't need to think about it. She just had to worry about getting equipment she needed for her lab. If Naruto was going to arrange, then she could spend time thinking of the subject of her research. She could spend days and nights locked up in her lab. It wouldn't bother her that she was in the hidden leaf. After breakfast, Naruto requested to speak to his mother alone. She nodded quietly and they departed to the study. Once there, Naruto settled down and put on a straight face. There were varying emotions within him. It was strange, but at least he had managed to get a grip of them. He didn't understand it all. But he would. What is it, Naruto? Kushina asked. She sounded concerned. Naruto shook his head, as if trying to tell his mother she should not be concerned. He smiled. Mother, I have always loved you, put you first before anything and anyone. I did ignore various things in life. You told me to make friends, but I never saw the benefit of making friends. Safe to say, all I needed was you. All I wanted was to be with my mother. We didn't have anyone. The village hated us, and I knew it pained you. You cried at night, perhaps wishing father was still alive. It made me sad as well, but still made me strong. Because I wanted to be there for you. I wanted to protect you. I don't know if I can ever completely change. But at least I have come to understand the need for friends. You can't do everything on your own. You need people you trust. People you can talk to when you are down. I have not made you proud. But I really wish to do so. Sasuke's mother is carrying something that I have not yet fully realized. But it's going to become something. My actions reflect heavily on how people treat you and will treat the child. I understand that fully. I want to say that, I will make you proud, mother. I cannot be the hero that father was, but I will make sure that you are safe and in peace everywhere you go. Truly not because for the care of this world. But it had to be done. For his sake. For his family's sake. Haven't you always tried to do that, Naruto? Naruto didn't offer an immediate response. Mother, I do not love Konoha. I don't think I will forget what they did to us. How they treated us. Perhaps a side of me fears that they might to do the child what they did to me. I will admit that if you had been open to leaving Konoha, we would have left long ago. Before Mikoto even became pregnant, I had even set things should plans backfire, Konoha will turn on us. Should that happen now, we become hated again. We can still live peacefully elsewhere, but what of Mikoto? Kushina smiled. How she wished she had been strong back then. She should have never shown any weak moments to Naruto. Things would have been difficult. Naruto wouldn't have felt the need to be strong for her sake. He was the one who calmed her. He was the one who comforted her. She hadn't been a truly good mother to Naruto. This left a bitter taste in her mouth. Had she been better, Naruto could have turned to be a very good person. A fine shinobi that would exceed his father. He already could do the things that Minato did. He was smart, a very meticulous person, and very cold and rational. It was at least good that he was starting to put some emotions in his thoughts. Perhaps things will be different. I should have done better as your mother. Perhaps that is why I never felt compelled to force you to act differently. I have always been afraid to confront that part of you because I blame myself for it. There was bitterness in Kushina's tone. Naruto quickly rushed to his mother. He placed both his hands on her shoulders. It was a gentle touch yet a bit firm. He was shaking his head. You did everything you could, mother. I could not have asked for a better mother than you. You were always there. We were always there for each other. May's hotel. May had an expressionless mask on her face. She had a paper on her right hand, but she wasn't reading it. Her mind was busy processing plenty of thoughts. She was bothered over the fact that Naruto appeared to be dictating her movements. She had agreed with him when he said they should cancel their trip to Iwagakure. Perhaps it was more of his state of mind that made her take the decision she took. But he had looked so rattled. She had never thought she could see such an expression from Naruto. Plans had changed once more. He wanted to go again. Nothing had yet to happen to Iwagakure. He said there was no reason to worry. May was thinking about this. The problem was Naruto. Even if something had happened, Naruto would still be a problem. She had her own reasons for going to Iwagakure. She would have to make other arrangements in terms of her security. She shouldn't have sent Ao back home. But she hadn't known things would be like this. Either way, Konoha still had shinobi that could cover her. The Godai Mizukage nodded firmly at the thought. She would leave Naruto. He had plenty on his plate either way. He would be handling his business and she would handle her business. If something comes up, she would have to deal with it. There was a knock on her door. She looked up as an Anbu walked up to her. Yes, the Hidden Leaf's black core were guarding her. What is it? You have a guest. May raised an eyebrow. She wasn't expecting anyone but Naruto to see. Who? Sasuke Uchiha. The Anbu merely said. She was familiar with that name. It wasn't a name that Naruto mentioned in their conversations, but she was certain this Uchiha was the boy who came with the blonde in the hidden mist. They'd spent a couple of days then. What would he want from her? They hadn't talked. Greetings. Yes, but that was it. She understood he worked with Naruto. But the fact that Naruto never brought up his name when talking to her was odd. Then again, the blonde was secretive. It may be that he didn't feel that need to bring that up. She didn't even know anyone else who worked with Naruto. She really had to know. It would not do her any good to be ignorant of things. Let him in. Hi. A couple of seconds later, the black-haired Uchiha walked into her presence. She showed him where to sit with a pointed finger. She didn't say anything but just stared at him with the same expressionless mask he was giving her. Admittedly, he was a good-looking young man. Far more so than Naruto. The blonde had his qualities, but in terms of physical appearance, the Uchiha stood out. Sasuke shifted nicely. Perhaps it was some kind of rebellious mindset within him. But he had brought himself here without Naruto knowing. He had his reasons. He would not say them. But he wanted to introduce himself to the Mizukage. Maybe it would be a good surprise to Naruto. You will forgive me for disturbing you, but I felt I had to come here. He managed to be polite. Sasuke really gave himself a pat on the back for managing it. No doubt it has to do with Naruto. Sasuke didn't deny it. Yes, he said. You are a cage. I'm sure Naruto was filled you on a couple of things. He has, but certainly nothing about you. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. It did bother him a little. He tried his best not to show his frustration over the fact that his partner hadn't bothered to tell this woman about him. I see, he paused. But I shouldn't be surprised. Why? Naruto never gives anyone the whole picture. If he gives you his right hand, his left is hidden. He likes doing things like that. Perhaps it is way on trying to control things in case someone betrays him. But it shouldn't matter since he is quite good at scheming. Mei was amused by Sasuke's frank tone. There was a bit of bitterness in this voice. It was strange, and it made it curious. What is your relationship with Naruto? We were teammates. Before that, he was my elder brother's friend. He helped me train. I have known him for quite some time. Sasuke paused. He considered saying that the blonde had even gotten his mother pregnant. But he decided to leave it for another day. Mei nodded. It does bother you that Naruto doesn't say everything to you. She found it strange that the Uchiha refused to call Naruto a friend. It does appear that they have known each other since they were little. Even so, there appeared to be some resentment in the picture. Their relationship was certainly not perfect. It really made her curious. Sasuke nodded. This was going a lot better than he had expected. Well, he was not stupid and he has always been a genius. His mind was just often filled with fury. And sometimes Naruto just made it look as if he wasn't smart. The blonde was just better at handling people than he was. Wouldn't you find it frustrating? I would, Mei said. She paused, sensing Naruto's presence. The blonde walked in through the front door. She smiled beautifully at his presence. She noted his eyes moving towards Sasuke, but there was no surprise in them. Nothing. He just glanced back at her. Sasuke, what are you doing here? The blonde asked as he settled next to Sasuke. Sasuke could not be possibly making a play on his stage, could he? Ridiculous. He was honestly surprised to see the Uchiha in here. He hadn't expected it. He hadn't thought that the Uchiha would have it in him to actually come before Mei. There was no chance that Mei had called for the Uchiha. They were supposed to be leaving anyway and he wasn't going to leave with the Uchiha. Naruto had never accused Sasuke of being stupid. Perhaps he should worry if the Uchiha was starting to use his head. Sasuke could disrupt things, not ruin them of course. He wouldn't go that far. Perhaps it would be to annoy him. I can go anywhere I want. You don't control my movements, Sasuke said with a shrug. It was a bit too careless. But it was for effect. Naruto didn't react to it nevertheless. I should rephrase my question. What business do you have with the Mizukage? She is my guest. He stressed those words in a slow tone. I wasn't aware she was yours. As far as I am concerned, I am meeting the leader of Kirigakure. If I decide to become Hokage one day, such a communication could prove fruitful. Naruto glanced at Mei. The woman was just smiling. She was amused. This wasn't a show. Fair enough. Why are you a little possessive? You've never had any problem with me here. Are you perhaps pursuing her? You seem to like older women after all. Naruto was silent for a couple of moments. It was a strange turn of events. Sasuke has always been disobedient, but never this mischievous. Naruto was certain the Uchiha didn't care about his personal life unless his mother was concerned. That is no way to speak of a cage, Sasuke. She is sitting before you. She seems amused by it, Sasuke said with a shrug. Naruto couldn't disagree with that. Fair enough, the blonde said. You really are enjoying this. It's a nice thing seeing someone have a comeback at you. Sasuke has always had something to say, Naruto said. Back then, he would have used violence to end it. Then again, the Uchiha wasn't exactly arguing with him, was he? Apparently, Mei said. You didn't answer his question. Naruto stared. I will leave that for his imagination. Well, that is if his mind is mentally capable of imagining something like that. The blonde said indifferently. Are you ready? About that, Mei smiled. Considering what you said yesterday, I think it would be best if I don't go with you. As such, I have decided that Sasuke shall accompany me to Iwagakure. I will of course have to get the Godime Hokage's permission, but I don't think she will say no. Of course not. She was likely to agree with it on first thought without even fussing over it. Despite everything, the woman would rather he not go to Iwagakure. She had her own reasons. But with how things are, Naruto wouldn't do anything to piss off the Tsuchikage. He was being denied the chance to even go there in the first place. It was unexpected. Sasuke had appeared even shocked by the announcement. But he was going to accept it. Naruto felt somehow by this turn of events. He didn't consider it. Sasuke wasn't even supposed to be here. Was he losing his edge? He must be. There was no other explanation. If that is your decision, then I cannot say anything else. Naruto finally said. Sasuke is powerful enough to guard you on his own. You will speak to him regarding the worries I shared with you last night. Mei nodded. I'm surprised you are not even putting up a fight over this. She said. This whole situation was not planned. There isn't even any harm in letting this go. Naruto said with a shrug. I will talk to you at length when you return, Sasuke. He faced Mei. You will at least come back here and permit me to take you to Kiri, yes? Yes. I suggest you go prepare, Sasuke. Naruto said before disappearing into thin air. Well, that went better than expected. Mei said. I'm surprised he is being indulgent. Why did you decide to take me instead? Sasuke asked. You will understand along the journey. There are recent developments that force me to tread carefully. Perhaps that is why Naruto didn't put up a fight. Kumogaku. Safety had never been his greatest fear. But he had always been proud of the village's defenses. It was a shock. He was angry. Those red clouds had struck his village. His anger was frightening. He just wanted to rip apart the person who infiltrated his village and took Yugito. He had thought his brother was safe. But the man had suddenly disappeared. It had to be the Akatsuki once more. I wanted them found and Perhaps Jiraiya had been right when he said that the Akatsuki was dangerous. He hadn't listened. Proud and confident that a group of criminals could not do any harm. But they had. And they had damaged him massively. He had lost his brother. The brother he was supposed to protect. It was infuriating. But he would get to the bottom of this. He would not try to solve things, he would solve things. The people who did this would pay dearly. He already sent letters to other cages, looking for intel and inquiring whether only Kumo was targeted or if other villages had been a target as well. There hadn't been a response yet. But it would come in the next couple of days. He was just growing impatient with the wait. Raikage-sama looked up as a shinobi walked towards him. His eyes were sharp, grabbed the report he was being given and glared at it. As he looked at it, his eyes widened in shock. As angry as he was, he couldn't jump into the conclusion that Konoha or Jiraiya had something to do with this. He knew both Tsunade and Jiraiya. They could not do this. But they had to have an explanation he would like. He stood up. He was going to the Hidden Leaf Uchiha compound. The kids were growing up quickly. In a couple of years, they would become strong individuals who would open the door for the Uchiha clan to return to its former glory. Mikoto was even thankful that Naruto had agreed to train them. The blonde would do well. She had seen his plans. He would be a good sensei. He was a little strict, but she was certain that he wouldn't do things in the same way he did with Sasuke. Mikoto truly had reasons to smile. Reasons to be happy and be hopeful about the future. She placed her hand on her belly and smiled warmly. She had more reasons to be hopeful. This was her life. Naruto got her this far. He was the father. She was alive because of him. She could watch the clan because of him. Mikoto. Mikoto turned around to face Kushina. Her friend. They had been together since long ago. When she was carrying Sasuke, Kushina was carrying Naruto. She didn't mind the fact that she was now carrying Naruto's child. She had known what she was doing when she seduced him. Then again, Naruto had been a willing participant. Kushina. She smiled. Her smile was strained. They had patched up things. They talked casually. But it wasn't like the days of the old. They no longer sat together and laughed. She was pregnant with Naruto's child. Kushina's son. Her friend had been hurt. But had she really been thinking about Kushina then? No, she was thinking about her desires and Naruto. She wanted him to experience love. If she could give Naruto a child that would make him open his heart once more, then she would have no regrets. She would with a smile. Naruto was precious to her. If she could make him human again, no price was too expensive. Kushina sat beside Mikoto silently. She stared at the garden for a long minute, thinking. How are you? Although surprised by the question, Mikoto responded with a smile. Managing clan affairs and Sasuke is difficult. The Hyugas don't even make things easy by being nosy. Well, at least I have managed to form a working relationship with them. She paused and glanced at her friend. Yourself. It could be because they felt that they were now the biggest clan and didn't have to worry about the fallen Uchiha. But her clan would rise once more. They were down but not out. I have my own issues but nothing to complain about. Kushina said. What do you mean the Hyuga are nosy? I have been avoiding walking in public to avoid rumors. It won't be any good. But the Hyuga already know. Other clan heads must know as well, but I haven't said anything to them. Kushina was silent. She was trying to imagine what it would be like for Mikoto to walk in the streets. People would talk, but probably wouldn't be anything outrageous. Whatever happens, I am here. You are carrying my grandchild after all. Mikoto smiled. I know, she said. I really do wish things were different, Kushina. You are my only friend. I speak with some mothers here in the clan, but they have a sense of duty to me as the clan head. It doesn't feel like friendship. Not everything goes in the way we want them to go. The human heart is sometimes unpredictable. Sometimes we do things we don't want to do. We make mistakes. Sometimes we even repeat them. But that just means we are human. We are better by not focusing on the past. Not holding on to our mistakes but by hoping for something better for tomorrow. Kushina spoke in a quiet tone. You are my friend. Nothing will change that. I'm sorry for the way I have behaved, Mikoto. Mikoto shook her head. She had a sad smile on her lips. You should not apologize, Kushina. Kushina didn't say anything. She wasn't here for this. She was here to talk about the future. With her friend. I have been thinking and I really can't wait for the child to be born. I want to see the look on Naruto's face when he holds her. Her? Mikoto asked with a raised eyebrow. She hadn't even thought that far. Kushina nodded. I hope it is a girl. I have a son. You had 2 sons. We could use a girl. Besides, if it is a boy, Naruto will abuse him with training. At least a girl will be too adorable for him to brutalize. Mikoto thought of it before laughing. Perhaps, she paused. What of the Kyuubi? Naruto will have to pass it on to someone at the end of the day. Naruto won't give it to any of his children. He is likely to just go to a zoo when he feels he is going to and release it there. Or he could do it anywhere. I don't think he generally cares, Kushina said with a shrug. It isn't something you should worry about. Mikoto nodded. She had thought as much. Considering what he experienced himself, she didn't think he would wish it for anyone. Do you really think he will have a look that says I am alive when he does hold his child? I hope so. There was silence. It was comfortable. Both women were content with the peace. When was the last time they sat like this? The last time they actually sat as one family and have dinner. They'd stopped those things, but they would now be connected for the rest of their lives. There was no question there. The silence was broken when Sasuke appeared before them. He greeted Naruto's mother casually and faced his mother. I'm going on a mission. That's sudden, Mikoto said with a stare. But then again, you are shinobi. Where are you going? It hardly surprised her. She wasn't going to complain. That was the life of a shinobi. Itachi had been doing worse. At least Sasuke stayed at home most of the time. She would rather have him sit a hit to handle some clan responsibilities. Awagakure. I will be guarding the Mizukage. I won't be gone for long. Naruto will take us to the fire border. We will travel from there. She only plans to spend 2 nights in Iwa before returning here. Kushina blinked in surprise. I thought Naruto was doing the mission. Well, as far as Naruto told her anyway. But he wouldn't lie to her. There was a change of plans. Last minute changes really. She decided to take me with her instead. I have to prepare. We depart in an hour. Sasuke said. He faced his mother. He wasn't like Naruto who thought 5 times before leaving his mother's presence. It wasn't to say he didn't love his mother. He loved her. Just not in the same extreme manner that Naruto did it. Be safe, Mikoto said with a warm smile. Naturally, there was a bit of arrogance in his tone. He truly did believe that there was no other opponent who could give him trouble aside from Naruto. He was capable of protecting the Mizukage. Mikoto merely shook her head as Sasuke walked away. They have really grown, haven't they? Kushina said. Yes, perhaps far quicker than we both would have liked. But the circumstances were not favorable. At least we were both there for our children. Kushina almost added, and then some, in reference to Mikoto's relationship with Naruto, but she swallowed hard. Come for dinner tonight. Even though Naruto isn't going to Iwa, I doubt he will be around. There seems to be something troubling. Mikoto was silent for a moment before shaking her head. Could be why the clan heads are meeting today. What do you think could be wrong? Mikoto shook her head. I honestly don't know, she said. Unsurprising that Naruto won't tell his beloved mother there are problems. He wouldn't want her to worry. But I can still notice. Well, sometimes. He has been closer to me. He understands me as much as I understand him. We don't usually talk about it, but there are times even I can't read him. He knows how to behave before his mother. Mikoto smiled. I guess that is something that will never change, she said with a laugh. She was thinking of Naruto at his elderly years, still overprotective of his mother. With Sasuke. Sasuke halted when he walked into the house and found Naruto waiting for him. The blonde was sitting casually as if the house was his. Well, he was already sleeping with his mother. This wasn't new anyway. He was being given an expressionless mask. It was so much like Naruto. He had been getting various looks. This wasn't new, but it was an expression he was most comfortable with from the blonde. He took a step closer to his guest and folded his hands across his chest. There was a bit of defiance in his look. It was as if he was daring Naruto to say something he would not like. If you are here to get me to turn down the mission I have been given, I refuse. Everything has already been sorted with the Hokage. That look. Naruto was at most amused by it. I have no such intentions. I must congratulate you for growing up. If you do use your head, you're quite capable. He spoke those words in a flat tone. Are you insulting me? I'm giving you a compliment. Learn to recognize one. Naruto said with a careless shrug of his shoulders. You have always been like this. Don't let those emotions drive you. Learn to think without them pushing you. As you do when things concern your mother. I do let my emotions influence things. But at least I am still able to think rationally. You on the hand seem to lose every sense when you are high on your emotions. Naruto said calmly. I didn't come here for this. Since you have decided to grow up, I shall make use of you. If I refuse, Naruto ignored the question. Listen carefully, because I will never repeat myself again. He said in a stern tone. There have been developments that could lead to war. I have plans to mitigate the risks. But anything is possible in this world. For that, I must consider certain things. May will tell you what is happening. I'm certain her talks with Onoki will also include the subject. I know who will become cages in both Kumo and Iwagakure. Onoki is already old. A little push, and he can be rendered unable to perform his duties. His granddaughter can take over. With Kumogakure, the Raikage is stubborn but he is reasonable. If he becomes unreasonable, he can be removed from the picture and a more reasonable person can take over. That being said, you are lousy with people, but strike a conversation with Kuretsuki. The Tsuchikage's granddaughter. Speak to her about your desire to become leader of your own village and the need to protect it. If she assumes me as a threat, you can agree with her. Sasuke stared for a long minute. He always knew Naruto was a cold-hearted person. Manipulative and honestly terrifying. But here he was suggesting doing something to two cages. That was something that could lead to war. He had no doubt that Naruto wouldn't do anything personally. This meant there was going to be a tool used for this adventure. Sasuke wouldn't even be surprised if Naruto planned to make himself a hero once things were done. But who would be used for this? It had to be someone who could be disposed of quickly. I don't think I will ever agree to some of your plots. But I will talk to Kuretsuki. He said. Do you really plan on doing things like that? You already own Suna and obviously have some influence in Kiri. I wouldn't be surprised if you do to the Mizukage what you did to my mother to control her. If I become the cage here, you get to manipulate all cages. You get to run this world. That appears to be a grand scheme. If I could accomplish that, I'd be truly proud of myself. Naruto said in a cold tone. What I have said are mere possibilities if things don't work out. You might not even reach the hidden stone. If you do, you might find trouble there. That's a slim chance of that happening. In any case, if we are not careful, war will be upon us. You will try to stop it. Not because you hate the war but because it's convenient that way. But if your attempts to stop it are rebuffed by the cages of Iwa and Kumo, you will let it happen. But only because you will now have a reason and a very good opportunity to get rid of the cages. which will likely stop the war. Sasuke said. Does your mother know you are this evil? Mother is sitting outside, Sasuke. Naruto said sternly. You wanted to play the game. I can play it good and bad. Both ways can be convenient depending on the situation. I will play it good. You will play it. Raise your image to be considered for Hokage. And on that journey, I will support you. Are you pleased? No, nor am I, but we must make the best of the situation. Naruto stood up and placed his right hand on Sasuke's shoulder. When Mei has told you what is happening and you have been exposed to Iwa's hostility, I shall listen to you. I will also need to talk you once my brother is born. Naruto raised an eyebrow. He must mean the child his mother is carrying. Naruto had never thought it that way. He hadn't considered that the child would be Sasuke's younger brother as a reality. What would that talk entail? First, he named Itachi, and I will not permit you to corrupt him with your ideas. You will have to change to be closer to him. Naruto stared into Sasuke's eyes. His eyes were cold. The Uchiha stared back, the M spinning hypnotically. I shouldn't have given you those eyes. They are my brothers. He'd entrusted them to me. I could have let you go blind first. Are you threatened by them? They give me much more power than Itachi, and you were never able to defeat him. You have always had a spine, and your courage must be applauded. The problem is you overstate your abilities. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.